Let's start.
To Wendy.
Okay, so just to recap, last week so originally ISBA, they used to have 2520 and 2540, and they just condensed it and put it into one. So we were working off of 25, I think it's the now 2520, formerly 2540. And then last week we combined 2530 because felt like it kind of said a lot of the same thing. So this was the draft we were working off of, and the part that we got to was the supplemental curriculum process. So I have like on a separate doc what we currently do, so we just needed to add in what we're doing now and then make any changes based on our current process if there's feedback with that. And then if we're going to talk about potentially a temporary approval process, we have to add that in there. I'm gonna go walk.
So we need to start, Lynn, with what our process is right now, and then we'll wait for her because she knows the process better than anybody else because she lives it. I like your dress and your boots.
Thank you. It's cowboy.
Thank you.
Oh, at Twin
Lakes,
Lakes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. The decorations over there are very cute.
Oh, good.
There must be lots of things happening. I think whether they were doing something with the junior high today, weren't they, with the buff puff?
Yeah, there was a buff game. 'Tis the season.
Yeah, it's crazy busy.
Okay, we were waiting for you because
sorry.
because you lead this process, so I didn't want to put something and not have it be right.
So currently what do I do?
So yeah, since now we're looking at the idea that we have to approve all supplemental.
Supplemental material
What is
Our current
the
approval process is, teachers will send me stuff, I go over it,
Okay, wait, how do we want to start this? Let's, and it's going to be red. We'll start there.
So we have the definition of what supplemental is, right? So supplemental is so underneath there, then you have your approval process. So step one.
well, that would be, I guess, I think we should probably change that because we're no longer saying supplemental, we're just saying curriculum materials. Any new curricular materials, that's what we're calling
Well,
it.
no, we still had a different definition for supplemental because
The supplemental is in
we
addition
had
to the
curriculum,
adopted
curricular, and then
textbooks.
supplemental.
Yep.
Oh, that's right.
Because
Okay,
supplemental is
yep,
anything that's not
okay.
attached to the curriculum, and that's where the
Okay.
beef has become the issue.
So the process of approving supplemental materials,
Can I just say is as follows, and then can we just do bullet points?
Yep.
Oops.
Hey, Liz.
Hi, Shayna.
Just getting started.
Okay, so teachers submit materials to the assistant superintendent.
I think we need to clarify that even though the definition says, well, at least with the supplemental is up here, any materials not attached to the curriculum that has already been approved.
the definition is at the top.
Yeah, so we already
So-
have it on the same policy. I don't know
Okay.
that we need to be redundant. Okay, so teachers submitted materials for approval to the assistant superintendent.
Lynn Paslin?
Well, technically, it's not for approval. I mean, I guess it is,
It
but
is.
they're submitting it for review because the board is the one that ultimately approves it. So we're
Right, but
sending
that's
it for
that.
review.
But this is the process of
Yeah.
approving. So they're
And then, I mean, are we getting in the weeds of that I create a spreadsheet and I
no.
Material requested material list is sent out to the supplemental curriculum committee.
That's
You
the,
have one.
because it's the one that's out in the another region. Okay.
It's an anonymous, I'm the only one that has the list of people. And anybody, I mean, we have quite a few people that aren't attached to our school, I think. I don't think they have kids in our district that are on there.
And their role is simply to give feedback.
Well, they're to review the material and give feedback.
Correct. And so then does that review or those comments or concerns or questions go back to the teacher so the teacher can see what the concerns or comments are?
Everybody can see it because it gets posted
Okay.
when we have a board meeting. Requesting material list is up to and shared with the supplementary materials committee to solicit feedback. And then all feedback is submitted at the next board meeting for approval from the board.
And so that's one of the issues that some of our teachers run into is the slowdown that creates. And so I was wondering if there's any other possible way to fast track or have a whatever, like a special.
I feel like that's
I think
what
there's
they
a
said,
next
that's
part.
where there's a
Yeah.
preliminary.
So this is the normal process,
Right.
and then if there's a need to fast track it, then that was what the board suggested that
Right,
we come
just-
back and write
But
it.
it's
just
a
in general.
month because I send it out the Monday or Tuesday after the board meeting, the list. And then I give everybody on that committee at least 3 weeks, and I put a date, and it's typically the Wednesday before Maria has to post for the board meeting. And then she posts, and then the board has the time to go through all the comments.
Right.
And then all that's public on that following at the board meeting.
So then, just to be clear, this is something that winds up it looks like that'll be something that gets established as policy. I should be encouraging all staff members in my building this week to start getting all their stuff together so that they can send it to you come June, so that they can have approval to use it come
Okay.
September.
They send it to me right now, it will go on the July list,
Okay.
because I already sent out the June list.
Okay.
I sent that out, I think Monday or
Okay.
Tuesday. So that's what, I mean, people will get me stuff, and it's like, I mean, it's May,
Right.
and I already have the June.
Well, I don't think
because
people
have
know
to
that
give people
timeline, yeah, so
time.
they're just not
Yeah.
aware that there's like a month, so it's not even that it's a 4-week process, it's
Yeah.
like a month
And
backlog.
it used to
so.
be longer, and so the feedback was taking too long, so that's why, we talked to the board about minimizing, so now it's that month process, but especially when we had a lot of stuff on there was no time for people to review that, so that's why I give them literally the longest amount of time I can to review the materials.
So I'll just-
So are you going to send an email out to the staff, or what's our process to get this started? 'Cause
Well, this is just our normal process, this is what we've
Right,
done
but-
since 2021.
but,
If we come up with a temporary process,
well, I'm just saying, like, I have a lot
I know.
to send your direction, and
So-
we all do, so.
So what we have said to the principals, and then what I said in grade level collaboration, is if you have stuff that has not gone through that approval process, start sending it to me. And then I am gonna have to talk to the board of just about, I'm putting it all in just one, and then so how am I gonna do this so I'm not overwhelming the committee? And if we start this library committee that we talked about for the other policy, can I separate novels versus just materials? And then how do they want me to do that? So it's not overwhelming to the people participating, but then it's timely enough so I don't know if it means that like I can chunk parts of it and I can have, 10 people look at this, 10 people. So that I feel like the board's gonna have to direct me on how they want me to do that, because my assumption is it's gonna be a lot. So that's what I need to figure out, is how they want that stuff.
Yeah, and what we don't have to bring forward is any
Right.
worksheet that was associated with any adopted
But
textbook
I have worksheets, and I was
previously.
looking at the date, and they said 1972, but there's great math, like, it's all great computation, it's just drilling skill, you know what I'm trying to say.
Use those all day long.
All day long, yeah. But I don't even know where they came from. There's
Yeah,
good
that's the
stuff,
problem,
so I'm
yeah.
not quite sure
We have worksheets
the process
that
in that.
we've used for years, and yes, I've made some changes to them, but they're probably not originally mine.
Right.
So I need it approved.
So I'll have to just ask that question.
Can we just use material that was before 1980 or something like that?
I think you could.
I wasn't
say
teaching
that?
before then.
I'm saying,
You
it
say
wasn't a
it.
problem back
I
then.
think we could use material before 2020, to be perfectly honest, prior to 2020
Everything
in this
is.
district.
I'm still
we
using
didn't
stuff
have
that I
say
started
it's
using in
2015.
2000, but now it has to
Yeah.
go through the process.
I think
so.
2015
Okay,
we're playing.
This is why we're running into a wall.
Okay, so does that capture the,
Teachers submit materials for request materials and share all feedback to Friday the school board for the board of trustees approves denies the request. The assistants were to notify the teacher of the result of the request.
I actually notify teachers and principals because sometimes the request comes through the principal. It's not from the teacher, so I don't know which teacher requested. I just know that it came from a set building for the principal.
And to also clarify, because Michelle said that in the previous number of meetings, that if it was teacher created or student driven, that it did not have to fall under this process. Do we put that in there as well?
What does student driven mean?
It means like the students in a speech class and they come up with their own speech topic. So they pick whatever and they do their research and they do all of
So
those
student
things.
research?
Yes,
Okay.
so,
Creating a speech
Yeah.
from a topic they choose.
or if they do a research paper, well, I know we had the conversation with the research paper and we also know that there are certain things that the teacher will still direct the student not to obviously present about, given the different policies and procedures that are within the school board. But in general, Michelle did say if it's student driven or student enacted, that,
so if there's a project the kids are doing, so like at Betty Keeper.
and they're bringing in
fifth
their own
grade
resources
day,
and they're
yeah.
bringing in their own stuff, I mean, so.
So that doesn't need to go through here, do we?
That was-
do we need to say that? I thought
That's
we
what I'm
probably.
gonna say.
Well, that's what I think might clarify some things, because
I think
again, if the teacher creates it, because that was the big push the last 3 meetings were the teachers basing it off the curriculum that's been approved and the teacher creates it themselves, then that is okay, because the curriculum and the material has already gone through that.
Yeah, like I think if you're using, your already and you just need more computation problems, and or you have a child that needs it spaced out a little more, if you're gonna do it on the, like, to me that's normal. Like you're just changing a number.
Right.
That to me is not. I mean, I really feel like we're talking
Maybe
about there's a
it's
narrative
carrots.
attached to it, or you know what I mean? Like
Pulling out the big words.
Well, I just think that there are a lot of teachers that are, like you said, very concerned to do anything at this point, so they want it as clear as can be. So they don't want to ever be accused of doing something they're not supposed to, and so they want it spelled out. This is okay, this is not, this must go through this process. And so then there's no concerns or questions.
Is this kind of what, did I capture this, Rebecca, based on the conversation that you guys have with Michelle?
Projects and teacher created materials if they are created based only on board adopted textbook or curriculum. I guess that would probably satisfy the definition, yeah. There is a couple questions regarding, especially like, and I know that this has already come up over the course of the year with the drama department, and the opt-in, opt-out versions of things, and how she can go about getting things in advance because obviously she has to buy everything in order for it to get eyes on it. But then if it doesn't get approved, then that's money that's out of the budget and out of the pocket. So there needs to be something put in there for classes like that too, I think. I mean, because that's not the normal.
What we talked about at that board meeting, if I remember right, Dave, was that if there were plays that she wanted to do, she could send them ahead of time and get them approved, but we never talked about the fact that if she didn't have access to the actual plays,
She doesn't.
we'd have to.
Yeah, she has to buy a copy of it to be able to
Mhm.
to get the full script so we can read it. But I would think that would fall under the all supplemental materials may be preliminarily approved, so if she gets the script, then she has her principal read it, and then what we talked about, I know I wasn't here the last week, but I was here the week before, what we talked about was the principal has to look at it and say it's okay, and then one of the two of us
Yeah,
needs
I
to.
think you,
There's no way to get those kind of plays or anything, like, so you don't have to spend the money.
No,
There's
that's
sites
the
where you can,
issue.
like, rent it or anything.
and so we talked about the fact that perhaps she tries to
we-
invest in a number of plays
Yeah,
so
we-
that she has a
That's what I told her,
pull
just,
from.
I'll pay for it out of the
How do
secondary
they know what to
curriculum.
buy if they can't read in advance?
Right, exactly. That's
They
the
can
problem.
read
have
the
a
synopsis
summary,
of it, I
yeah.
guess, but they can't actually read the whole script unless we buy a copy of it, which is,
And for our
So if
drama
we buy a
department, she doesn't
copy-
know how many boys or girls she's gonna have or what kind of personalities. So like, is it gonna be more of a comedic class or is it gonna be more of a drama driven class or those types of things. And so before she meets her students, she can't just assume, oh, this plays a one play fits all type of scenario. So
she also has to look
There's
at
a
the
way
makeup
to
of the
rent
boys
it.
and the girls
Yeah,
in the
exactly,
class, so
yeah.
that if it's boy heavy, then she's looking for a play with more male characters than female characters, so.
I think that makes sense then, if she could try to get a variety of things so she would have something to work with.
And that's what we talked about, however, it's like $300.
yeah,
for
it
each
gets
one.
Yeah,
So she doesn't wanna buy a whole bunch and then find out that
none of them.
5 of them we would never allow to have
Yeah.
in our schools, so.
And she
um,
doesn't feel like she can narrow that down through reading the synopsis, right?
Yeah, because even like with a library book, that's one of the things our librarians is saying is when you look at the back of the book,
They don't
they
say-
make it very clean and generic on the back, and then you start reading it and you find that there are things in there that are problematic. So that's her concern, is that she would read the synopsis and.
We have to
not
figure
get a
out.
full
Yeah.
picture.
Well, I need to think about that, like, I'm just.
But I do think it falls under, and then they just build their library as we go, but I do think it can fall under the all supplemental materials, maybe preliminarily approved.
Do you need to put by who?
Yeah, so are we done with the top part, I guess, before we go down to the next part? Are you guys, is there anybody
I was
else?
just gonna say, I think you should specify, like with a little phrase or something after student-driven projects, something to where that clarifies, like, that it's a
So-
project based on their choice, because otherwise it almost sounds like the research or the student-driven project is connected to the curriculum. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because of how that sentence reads.
So I can
Are
put,
student-driven projects essentially material that's selected by students?
Correct.
well, material, but, so it could be a speech, you know, that we're doing an argumentative or an opinion speech. They get to pick the topic, and then they go find the resources they're gonna use to support whatever their opinion is. At the elementary level, an example I guess would be at Betty Kiefer, 5th grade, they do a state fair, and so kids get to pick a state, and then they again get to pick the resource materials that they're going to use to pull the information to make their board. So I guess that's what we're talking about.
in modern U.S. history right now. The students are doing a dueling documents assignment where they're taking some topic we've already learned, and they're trying to find 2 different perspectives of that topic and then explain the differences between people's perspectives of, I don't know, the Iran-Contra affair.
Cool.
Something.
So I think it should remain clear what that is, because when I say student-driven, I don't think students choosing material.
I think what Nate's trying to say too is if it's teacher language, then it's not gonna be obvious to the normal, right? I mean,
Right, I see student-driven, I don't know
Yeah.
what that means.
So does this help you? Projects
Mhm.
based on student choice, for example, speeches, display boards, research projects?
Yeah, it does, but I think materials should be added, like materials that are chosen by students.
Oh, so it just doesn't say student-driven projects, just,
Well, somewhere in there it should be like the material is chosen by the student.
okay.
What about project based on student choice and material selected by students or something?
Materials used for projects based on student
Oh,
choice, i.e.
that clears it up.
speeches, display boards, research
Mhm.
projects, etc.
Yep.
Like that's more clear.
That helps.
No. I think it should be materials chosen by the student, or it should say something like that, if that is what we're talking about.
Okay. Materials chosen, whoops,
Chosen by students for student-led project or something like
by
that.
students or,
Choice driven
Project.
I just think you
Choice
can say,
driven.
I think you can say
We already have
materials
driven.
chosen by students, i.e.
There you
and
go.
leave it at that, take off
Go for it.
4 and just leave it there,
But can I put 4 projects?
yeah.
Mhm.
Just so that, I mean, I know
Yeah,
it's
that clears
there,
it up.
but then, so, and then I need my parentheses.
Mhm.
Student driven projects, materials chosen by students for projects.
I think we either have one extra parentheses or we're
Mhm.
missing one.
Oh, we do have
Yeah.
one, sorry, thank you, I
There you go.
missed it up here, gotcha.
And I think based on how we defined, because of the whole curriculum versus curricular materials topic last time, I think we need to say at the end, or curricular materials, not curriculum.
So textbook or curricular materials?
I think so.
Yeah, cause the
Okay.
definition's at the top, yeah,
Right.
you're right. Just from a grammar, we say project in the same sentence, can we like change that?
out.
Student driven activities.
Yeah. Or you can just do
Or-
yeah, right there, student driven activities and then materials chosen by students for projects, like what you had, but
Mhm.
you have it twice, I'm just saying.
Or can we just say materials chosen by students, i.e. speeches,
For,
display
i.e.
boards?
That's what I originally
I
said.
know, I just took the extra projects out, does it still,
No, you need to replace the first projects with activities and put your other projects back.
Yeah, and then it sounds better.
so you do want the projects in
You want the
there?
projects there, but out of there, yep.
Activities,
Mhm.
No, but you're right, you don't wanna be redundant. It gets
It
repetitive.
doesn't read well.
okay, yes?
That works.
Yep.
Okay, so 2000 for our student driven activity, the students for projects, speeches, displays, and teaching creative, they are created based on one report. Okay. So then.
Okay, so all supplemental materials may be preliminarily approved. The process for this is as follows.
Do we wanna just, for this process, I feel like, somewhere it should note that all supplement materials may be preliminary approved, something about within board policy, like our controversial issue policy, some of our resolutions, like, before you even go into what the process, should we note that they have to be in compliance with those policies?
Isn't that kind of assumed?
Well, I would
I don't
not
think we assume anything, so.
Never assume. Don't be
All
like Moses
supplemental
Lake.
materials may be preliminarily.
I mean, I assumed this wasn't necessary because I assumed we were already operating under those umbrellas, so.
Approved.
I just think it's, I mean, again, if there was a brand new teacher,
Yeah,
I just
they should
think-
know, yeah.
I mean, they may not,
I
I
would
know
agree
it's
with
what
you.
we go over at the beginning of school, those policies, but, you know, they're overwhelmed their first year, so 5 months in, are they gonna know what our
I
CRT
agree.
resolution
I
is,
agree.
are they?
So does that help you?
You guys don't have a drive or something where all the teachers can share material that's already been approved?
Oh, yeah.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Where's that at? On the
We have a
Google
list.
Drive? I know you have a list, but I'm saying, if
Every-
she's a teacher in one class and she's new and she needs material, she should be able to go to a drive that's already approved.
We have a pacing guide that has
Worksheets,
all of the links for
everything.
that
Yeah.
whole grade,
All
everything,
of
yeah.
those things are linked into the
Yep.
teaching and learning handbook
Okay.
that they have.
And what we try to do is like if Shane has something that she's been using and, you know, let's just say somebody at Twin wants to use it, then we have, for 4th grade, there's a drive that has anything and everything that,
Okay.
all the assessments, everything is all there. So they already kind of have that and they start sharing, but that's where, like to Becca's point is then you'll have these just, and you know, 5 years from now, let's just say Shane's gone and somebody doesn't know, and so we don't know where it came from, but it's a computation worksheet that was in
Right.
Google Drive, so.
Yeah, we're just trying to clean it all up.
Regularly approved and must adhere to all district policies. The process for this is as follows.
Okay, so the teacher submits the supplemental material to the building principal for
We
review.
have not talked about any of the specifics on this, and we kind of generically said, well, would it be 2 people, would it be 3 people, would you have the principal, but then there was some like, that's a lot for one principal, so, I mean, I don't know, we just kind of threw out there some temporary, because that month timeline was problematic, for people.
Do we need to define when we would use this process, because I guess what I don't want is for us to circumvent the normal process, and overwhelm this process, because
Well-
we just wanna hurry up and get it done.
Perhaps within this process, the first process needs to have already been started. Teachers may make use of this process if they have already submitted their request to the preliminary process
So-
and
That makes
are
sense.
waiting for approval from
Yeah,
the
that
preliminary.
makes sense.
So I have, so in just from, I'm a systems person, so like I already have a protocol of how our supplemental process works, so in my mind, when I send out the next agenda, because I send that out to all staff, I will send out, here's our protocol for supplemental, and then whatever we take from this, I mean, obviously, once it gets approved, then I can add, like, so that everybody is in the know about this is what our process is gonna be, but what I don't want is that we're circumventing and then people are like, they're overloading me to the point where
Right.
I can't send out 100 documents to people, like, there's no way to manage that, like, for the supplemental.
Right.
We're up to 50 people now on that, and when I first started this in 2021, I think I started with like 10. So, I mean, every time we have a meeting, every time I'll get random emails of like, hey, I wanna be on there. And so if somebody emails me, I add them, and Lisa's never even seen the list of people. So we're up to 50, but that's a lot for, if I send out 100 things, that's a lot.
But kind of like what we've discussed previously in this, if there is something that, I walk in on Monday, or not Monday, but like this week, we just wrapped up teaching Sarah versus a Star, and my assessments were not as, great as I would like to. I can't reuse the stuff that I used this week, so I need to come up with something else. So if I find something, I can submit it through the supplemental process to you on Monday to say, hey, I need to get this approved for future use. However, I also know this would be a wonderful activity for me to use immediately, because I'm trying to strengthen the knowledge level of my students
Right.
based upon my assessment.
So, to play devil's advocate to that, I feel like what I send to the board is I need to have it say it's a supplemental, this is our traditional, like whatever we name this, I don't think they should say, somehow I have to define it too.
Right.
But here's what went through our typical, and then this was the temporary, I feel like I have to define that. The issue would be though, is if, let's just say, however many teachers we have, if I got 100 of that,
Right.
it's gonna jump over, and so then you as a teacher were like, I'm doing the process and going through supplemental, and I'm so bogged down with temporary approvals that I never get to the stuff you sent me.
Right.
I don't know how,
Right.
that's my issue.
No, I get that for sure.
Is if I get, so I feel like if somebody emailed me and said, because I think part of the process has to be that I have to know
Right.
who gave temporary approval to what. I feel like the board needs to be reported on what was
Right.
temporary approval. And then I can put it to the next month, but if it's a lot, then it's gonna supersede
Right.
other things you guys have sent me,
Well,
so
that's-
that's my.
Lots of typing there.
Yep.
And it is,
This is just a kind of rough
For the
draft.
supplemental material approval process, the teacher needs access to material sooner than the next regularly scheduled. The teacher submits material in the building administrator for preliminary approval. Provides preliminary, she forwards the material to the superintendent. For final approval, the material continues to work through the process of formal approval by. Are you gonna put in there, like, at some point, are they gonna let me know that they went through, that are you gonna let me know that you gave temporary approval and then I'm doing some spreadsheet to the board that this was temporary approval on?
This is a lot.
This is a lot.
It's a lot. I just can't even imagine, because I totally understand what you're saying. Like, if I were to send you all of the things that I do in 1 week, just in a week.
Do you feel like you have to tweak stuff that much?
Well, my standard stuff is based 100% off the curriculum, with regards to the things that I do. But I do supplement it quite frequently with additional activities or things of that nature. And so, ask any of my students, I'll tell you, we work hard. So we do a lot of stuff in my class, and so yeah.
I feel like I would have to have a list of this is what
I would just-
temporary approval, and then when it got final approval from the board, like
Fair.
from the traditional process.
So we could have just a one extra column in your supplemental worksheet that just says preliminary approval for immediate use or whatever, and you could check it if that happened to have gone through that process. Then the board at least knows that it was used while we were waiting. And this part is truly only for things that are created outside of the adopted textbook or curricular
Right.
materials. So if we're just putting together a worksheet with additional math problems, that doesn't have to come to this. But if we have to present information in a different way because the kids didn't get it the first time, that would have to go through this process.
So, for example, I was teaching mining through Idaho history, and we were talking about the gold panning, and so I'm standing up there trying to show them how to do it, and they were looking at me like, wow, you're a little bit. So pulling up a video clip of a gold miner who's in
So video clips don't come through this process, because
Okay,
we
so
have a
that's-
They go through a
video
different process.
policy. We have a policy on videos.
It's the movie policy.
Yep. So those don't come
Well, I
here.
know the movie policy.
And yeah, so videos, anytime you're showing a video.
So the video is part of the movie
Mhm.
policy.
Mhm.
Oh, I thought the video was attached to this because it was for.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's a permission.
Mhm.
So we have to send all our video clips, links to the parents
Mhm.
ahead of time.
Mhm.
So in that case, I would send it that night and I would say, tomorrow I would like to show this.
The kids were struggling to grasp this concept. I'm going to show this video so they can see it. Please let me know if you have any
Okay.
concerns.
Okay, that's good. I
So
thought
that's
the
an
video was
opt-out
linked
one,
to
it's
this.
not a
Well, they would-
opt-in situation. Cause if we had to wait for every
Right.
single parent to get back to the opt-in, there'd be like 10 kids that
Well,
need to go to the
you
library
probably,
for that
I mean, I
video.
guess everything's an opt-in, so if you don't hear back from a parent, then I would say the kids aren't watching the video.
Or then the
If
kids
you
aren't
haven't
watching the
heard back.
video.
Because everything the board wants to do is opt-in, so
Well,
parents
what if
have
the
a
parents
choice.
just don't check their email?
Yeah, it's,
I actually don't.
whenever I did the opt-in permission slips, I always gave like 2 weeks for them to get them back, and I still, like
And
5
I think as
didn't come back.
we fine tune our instructional pacing guides and we get our syllabi put together well, a lot of the things that you know you're gonna use, we can put right on there, right up front, so parents have the opportunity. Are you looking at policy? I would tell you, just talking to parents, that
Put anything on there that you may use, even
the
if you don't use.
videos make parents really nervous because they just don't know for sure what their kids are gonna see, so they do wanna be able to look at them ahead of time.
Okay, so elementary is only G-rated movies may be shown without parental permission. However, parents must be notified the movie will be shown in
Right.
class. All
Yes.
PG-rated movies to be shown requires
Have
a
the
signed written
permission.
consent. All movies must be reviewed and approved by a school administrator in advance. Middle school, any parents must be notified. PG rating to be shown at all middle school requires parent guardian notification. So that's not an opt-in. It's just a notification that so they know that a movie's being shown. Any movie with a PG-13 rating requires consent. That's an opt-in. All movies must be reviewed and approved by your administrator. High school, only G, PG, and 13 rated movies may be shown without parent permission, except parents must be notified. Only certain segments having a valid educational purpose of any R-rated movie may be shown. Any segment of an R-rated to be shown at the high school requires a signed written consent, so all R is opt-in.
But
And
that's
then it-
talking about movies.
Mhm.
Like, there is definitely a difference between that and a multiplication wrap that I would show my kids.
Right.
Or my Huele de Robaño video that I share so they can ask to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
The other piece of this is at least 5 days prior to the showing, the instructor or teacher shall submit to the principal in writing the
Yes.
following: the title, the purpose, the course objective, when you're showing it, when and how parents will be notified, and then when consent was given, and then what was the rating.
Okay, so having read through that, it doesn't actually address the clips. So from a parent's perspective, what would you like to see, I guess. As far as like, if it's a quick 3-minute clip on how to mine for gold, how to ask to go to the bathroom in Spanish. What is your perspective on that?
So I guess the question is the length here, like, I don't know, it's like Sorority paradox, 3 minutes, how about 3 minutes?
Less than
and
5.
How about 5 minutes? Sure, 5 minutes.
What? And then we go through this process, is that what you're saying?
I still think parents should be notified.
That's why we told everybody when we first, because we did this policy in 2021, June of 2021, we said that if it's a clip, if it's going through the movie, parents are notified, that kind of a thing. Because, and if I remember right, I mean, that was 3 years ago, part of it was just parents being aware of how often technology was being used. So like if you had a lot of movies being shown or a lot of clips, and so there wasn't, I mean, it was just that parents were aware of the quantity. It wasn't, I mean, if I remember right, don't quote me on that, but I think that was part of the discussion of parents were notified, just because some parents might say like, I feel like you've had 20 video clips this week, kind of a thing. So not that that's ever happened, but you know what I mean?
Well, also in my government classes, when I start a unit, I have a basic like overview of the unit for students and parents. Anybody can see it, and I link several videos that we're not going to watch in class, but if you're not understanding something, you could go watch that video to try to
help or something.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would I need to list all those videos in my syllabus beforehand, letting parents know we're not watching all these videos. They're just a way for extra
For
help.
students to get extra
Yeah.
information.
Well, I know, so with your health,
I don't teach health.
I know you didn't, but when you were, it seems like when you would put your unit together, you sent that whole document to parents
Yes.
ahead of time so
Yes.
that they knew, and I think that's what this is asking.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Because then they can look at what's on there, especially if you're indicating that we're not watching these in class, but they're here for additional help.
Extra help.
And
yeah.
then parents can look at them and decide, yeah, I'm not having my kid watch that, or yep, that's a really good one.
Yeah. And they can decide. I'm not going to show it.
Yeah.
Right.
And to your point about like parents not seeing the note about we're gonna watch this thing tomorrow, at least I keep the first syllabus usually of at least I did this much. I got the plan. So I think there might be better odds that they would hang on to that, or their kid could show them, here's the link to the syllabus, which now I guess is a thing. So.
And
I don't know where any of my kids' syllabuses are, so I sign them and there you
But
go.
in high school, you get credit for the signed one now, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially a
But,
grade.
so on rated G, we just have to let them know we're watching, but we don't have to get a opt-in, opt-out. So, if I sent this clip about the mining, we're gonna watch this tomorrow,
You're just letting them know.
I'm just letting them know.
But it does say, I think it says 5 days.
Yeah.
Well,
Then how do you
my
reinforce
frustration
something?
is I've got littles and they can't always picture what's going on.
Right.
And there are times I'll bring an image or a video up that will, like we studied natural disasters through science. So we watched some footage on tornadoes. I watched it and made sure there weren't any dead bodies or anything like that. We watched footage on tsunamis. I mean, I guess that stuff I can get ahead of time because I know I'm going to do that. But there are things that they just don't
Grasp. Right.
grasp, and it's different every year.
Right.
So that's.
Teaching is not like this.
I mean,
okay, we're just
I
gonna
can
do
wait
this.
and
We
I
can
can send it
assume, but we
home
can't.
tonight for tomorrow. But if I wait a week, that just.
But it's
But
just a
so-
notification.
Well, right, but that says 5 days. So if you can't meet the 5 days, unless the parents feel like this isn't.
But the 5 days is not to the parents, the
It's
5
to the
days is to the
administrator.
principal.
So they have to prove.
Right, 5 days. It's still 5 days, which takes that out of play if you're trying to get kids to understand something. And in that case, I think you go to this process and you just get it preliminarily approved. That would be quick and easy. Lisa would look at it, I would look at it, and then,
I just don't wanna shortchange our kids because of the process. I feel
this,
that
yeah, this is the
it's
part that
easier to
this
say,
process
not
is
going
made
to do
hard.
it.
Just not gonna
Yeah.
do it. I mean,
Yeah, and that's the conversation we have had the last couple of times that we've met is some of our policies have tied our teachers' hands in being able to meet the needs of the kids in the classroom in the moment because everything takes so long. So Michelle was definitely open to hearing that. I don't think it was something, Rebecca did a really good job of sharing that with her. Yeah, and I just don't think it was necessarily something that she was really understanding was a problem until we had that first meeting. So, I don't know the right place to put that. It kind of seems like it needs to go back to that policy, because that's the video content policy.
But
We
under
could
this
bring
we
that
do-
one back up and just
Add
talk
clips
about
to it.
clips and what that will entail.
Cause this does say under supplemental audio and visual media, which I would imagine that would fall under that particular.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As well as
this is
internet
great.
resources, so.
Cause there's definitely a difference between the movie.
And this one is definitely movie, so maybe that we are saying that if it's a clip, it falls under this.
To support instruction.
And then as those come, and those probably will come through this process more often than maybe some other types of things, but then it goes through the whole supplemental approval process and we just keep creating a catalog basically of those approved videos and we can link them right into the instructional calendar under natural disasters
So
or
I'm just
whatever you're
gonna
doing.
throw this out there, so that now it's not just material, it's gonna be audio.
But this is gonna be a
But it-
monster
no,
no
but
matter
it-
what, this is just,
but
I mean, this
it-
is the nature of the situation
It's
that we're in.
actually in the definition.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I 100%, I'm just saying, I'm worried
Yeah.
about getting it done timely, cause I can't send 200 things out to.
I don't know how.
Can we
how it can be
define
done.
audio visual here as less than 5 minutes, as was suggested here? Because I think we do need to obviously define.
So are you, if
What is
it's
included in the
less
movie
than
policy?
5 minutes, then it doesn't go through this policy? Is that a caveat?
No, I think if it's
or-
less than 5 minutes, then we go through this policy and not the movie policy.
Oh, gotcha.
So Crash Course has to go through the movie policy.
I
No,
don't know what
Crash
Crash
Course-
Course is, but
Oh,
sure.
cause it's 10 minutes?
Yeah. It's a
I
video
like
that
it.
explains an entire
It's super cool.
unit
It's actually
really
really
fast.
cool. Yeah, it's
So
really
you
cool.
can
I
slow
like
it down so that they can understand him. But
Yeah, I like the Crash Course videos.
Yeah.
They're cool.
I know, I like them too. They're,
But
Kind
if
of
you
an
know that you're
overview.
gonna use those, I
Just put them all
I
in a
just
list
put 'em through
and link
the-
them and send them to whomever.
And the other thing that I guess
But
what I
then-
would say to our teachers
Yeah, I would
is
just link 'em
I
all.
would be
Even if you don't use
very
them, just link 'em.
thoughtful about what are the materials that I need in September
Yeah.
and have those first so that we aren't inundating the process and then people who need something the first week of school don't have it because it's way down
Right.
on the list after things that somebody wants to use in December, so.
I just don't wanna overwhelm the process and then people back out of it because they're overwhelmed. 'cause
Right.
I've sent
But if
them
we have to get
5,000.
stuff approved by September, like if we have,
Right.
there's
we have
no
to get it
other
approved.
Well,
way.
cause now we're talking about, we have July and August because
Yeah.
I've already sent June.
So that was my question. How are we letting teachers know this? Like,
So I've been talking to them in all the grade level and then we've talked to principals of like, start getting that list of what you want.
I'll be sending an email.
yeah.
So it's kind of been out there, so people
So
have
I will
started
talk to my principal. and
sending
see.
stuff to me.
And we're meeting with the principals on Thursday next week, so we
Because
can have it on the
what
agenda.
I got was the novels and, but.
That's all we've talked about so far.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Okay, so Nate, where would we put, that, you think?
I think it'd be is there definitions section?
At the top.
Yeah, I think it'd be.
For audio visual or?
Yeah, the definitions of audio.
Yeah,
visual.
audio.
And a reference to the movie policy.
Also, don't we have certain channels on YouTube that are approved? So like we wouldn't have to get every single video approved if that channel is approved, if they've decided.
know that.
It seems like it because when I go onto YouTube, it will say,
This
this
channel
is
not
under,
approved.
no, it says it is.
Yeah,
This,
yeah.
this is under a
That
channel
just
that
means
is.
that
Some-
Lakeland has allowed that to be a channel in our
Oh,
system.
but
They
it
haven't
hasn't been
Firewall.
approved
Yeah, it's not,
by the
no.
board. Oh,
No,
okay.
and actually, I think anybody can actually check the box that says
Yes.
approved.
Oh,
So it's
So
watchable by link,
yep,
yeah, anybody can
mhm.
click it.
Oh.
That are 5 minutes long or less. All within the parameters.
You guys, I know you've said this before, Lynn, but you
This
do have a
policy.
document somewhere that has a list of all
Yeah, I've never
approved
been able to find it.
materials. I think I tried going to it and I wasn't finding like any foreign language stuff, but anything that,
Well, that's probably because nobody has sent me foreign language
Well, Chris
until you
says-
just did.
Chris said he did. He said he got approval for a couple of different websites.
What was the policy number?
2570.
2570, and that was the, what is it called?
Let me get it
Sorry.
use of commercially produced video recordings. And if you wanna do the the consent form is 2570F, if that
I
matters.
don't think I don't think so. Is that what, is that?
Yeah, I think that clarifies it.
While we're up in this section, does part 3, is that where like novels assigned in class would be included? And if so, what words in there include novels?
So I feel like if
Library materials?
well, I feel like that's when we, the
Instruction, because instructional media
well, I feel like
is
what we
novels
talked about, and
materials.
I'm trying to remember at what meeting we talked about, I feel like we have the library ones, and then we had this, and we were making those separate. So
Right.
like, yes, they're instructional, but we were trying to like, this is what we're doing with library books. And then we were gonna write a protocol of like, if they're in class use, whatever, but this is a separate thing, and we weren't gonna blur those, but I don't know if that was really the case, but that's what I remember talking about is, we have the library, the ones that, we took to the board and we tabled until we can get some more information, and then we have the curriculum piece. So they were gonna be 2 separate.
Right, so the library materials one is library books that the kid would go to the library and check out, and their
Well,
parent check the
we
boxes.
have that one, but also I thought we wrote the one that talks about like if it's in class, you're using it for a read aloud, if you're using it for an instructional tool, but it all, because that's where all the, if you didn't like it, you could complain, like it was all contained in that one.
Okay,
That was my,
so novel sets would not be included.
well, I mean, we could, but
I think we should.
I felt like we separated them out.
And actually, I think novel sets fall into both 2 and 3, because when we adopt an ELA program, oftentimes there are novels that come with it as part of the curriculum adoption, but then we also buy supplemental ones.
Yeah.
I feel like they could actually go both.
Okay.
So both novel
Does
sets.
that mean good?
So, yeah, and I followed to that, but both novel sets, whether they were provided with Amplify, let's say, and
The novel sets that are purchased with a curriculum, the board adopts the entire thing.
yeah, so you don't need an opt-in or out for them to read that novel.
Well,
That's not.
Any novel, I think any novel no. So what this is saying is that those novels are approved because the board approved the curriculum. But
With
we're,
Amplify.
right,
Yes.
but we're still allowing parents to decide for all of our novels whether they want their kids to read them.
Okay, so,
I might not.
okay, I get that.
I'll send it to you.
So, we're reading Treasure Island in 4th grade, and it is, it's the reader. I did not get permission for that.
Is it the full novel, or is it actually the textbook where they have the excerpts of it? Like, is
I
it
believe it's the full novel. It's like the whole reader is Treasure Island, and it was approved by the board as instructional material. It's not a library book. It's not taken from the library.
Right.
So I guess I need clarification on that. The other thing I would like to add somewhere, and maybe that's already added in the library, I don't know, but when I do a novel set, I have to have a opt-in and out. So like my Storm Runner series needs an opt-in, opt-out. Oh goodness, what else was it? Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I cover everything. Oh, picture books. So like I used Eric Carl's Little Cloud and we were just.
We're working through the classroom library.
So that as instructional though, not as my
Right.
kids could.
Right, so what we're working toward is, the goal is to have each teacher put, there are 2 apps that we found. One is called Book Source and the other one I think is called Collect It, where it has a scanner and you flip the book over, scan the ISBN, it puts the title and the author right into a list for you. And then we're gonna work through those this summer, so the goal would be to it's going to be a very long list to the board of books that we currently have in our classroom libraries across the district that we're recommending for approval. And then once those are approved, then you can use them in whatever way you want to.
If that's different in the library. Yes. If I took a book off the library shelf and used it instructionally.
Right, if you're going to use it instructionally, it was in the library, you need to check to see if it's already been approved by the board to use as a supplemental material. If it has, you're good. If it hasn't, it has to go through this process. Which is why we want to take the classroom library books to the board for approval, so that whatever you have in your classroom, you can use.
As instruction where the kids can read
Yes.
on their own.
Yes.
Okay.
And while the list is going to be long, the majority of the books that teachers have in their classrooms right now are from 2015 or earlier. I'm not expecting that we have books in our elementary libraries that shouldn't be there.
No, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about.
It's just going to be a really long list. So,
Yes.
But then as we are taking books through this process, Lynn has a very long list of what's been approved, so that teachers can have access to that, so they don't have to go through the process again for something
Right.
that's already come.
Yeah.
So.
I've read your list.
Okay, so curricular materials are defined as textbooks, core instructional materials, and all resources included within the adoption. And can I just put including novels?
Yeah, although I don't know if you want to put it there in part 3.
I'm going to put it in both,
Oh, okay.
because
Yeah. It could
And
be
I would,
both.
It
well,
could
I
be
would say
both, yeah.
novels and audio clips, because in some of their programs, there's audio clips attached to the program.
Okay, but hold on. If I have videos and audio clips that are attached to the curriculum that's been approved, that doesn't fall under this, correct?
you don't have to take it for it's been approved. That's all
Okay.
we're doing is
Okay.
defining. All we're doing is
So-
defining,
Oh,
including novels.
And just audio clips.
We also have video clips audio and video clips that
Audio
come with
slash
some
video.
of our.
In my mind, it's anything attached to the adoption.
Right.
Yeah.
And then supplemental materials, any supporting materials used in classroom instruction, inclusive of. Good.
Clears it up.
Okay, just to double check this. Sorry.
but this is good, Shana, because
Well,
we need to.
Yeah, we want to do it right. So Treasure Island. I'm like, I've never read this book. I've never checked the book out at the library before. I'm assuming what I've read is the whole novel, but it's part of the curriculum. Like it's a reader, like all the other readers. Do I need written opt-in, opt-out?
Well, one of the things that we talked about doing at the elementary level that we haven't been doing is, and that's what I think Lisa talked to you about, is the syllabus for ELA. And what we're asking is for the teachers to list the novels that they might be reading, whether they're part of the curriculum or not, so parents are aware.
Okay, we did not.
I know, we haven't done that, and we
Okay.
haven't done that. That will start in the fall. We've been doing it in middle and high school for several years, but we've never done it in elementary.
So the readers that have excerpts, we don't have to get permission, but if it's a full novel, we have to get permission. We
Well,
should get
or,
opt-in or opt-out.
and what we've been doing at middle and high school is the syllabus the teachers have listed and said, these are the novels we may use this year, so the parents know what those are, and then the parents sign approval, or I have some questions I'd like to talk to you about, and we can work, Lynn's gonna actually create that for you guys.
So much extra time in summer.
Most of the time I would tell you that the parents are comfortable with the books and they sign
Right,
it and you're
yeah,
good to go. But there are some times where parents are like, I don't know if I want my kid reading that book, and so then they reach out to you and say, if you choose to read this book, can we do something different? And what I would suggest to our teachers is, if you have a large number of kids whose parents say, I'd really
Switch.
rather not, then
Something
that
else,
year
yeah.
you do a different book and you don't do that one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, our elementary syllabi are going to be quite large.
Well, mine used to be 1 page front back, and now it's probably gonna be at least 5 pages.
Well,
Yeah,
already
there's
said
mine.
now,
I'm gonna outline
I'm gonna
everything.
add
in
to it
elementary,
now.
it's 2-page. Welcome
Because I
to
have a
elementary
small
with
section
that.
on
Whatever, as long
possible
as they read
videos,
it, but I guess if they've
That's
signed
going
it,
to
then
increase.
that's not.
Right.
Paper?
Yeah.
No. I don't-
Okay, so
I
are we,
can't write
can we
any
go back
smaller.
down
I'll
to
just
where we
make it
were?
4 pages.
Are we good with the definitions? Okay.
Gotta cover my bases.
So where does it say the opt-in, like where would we put that? So I'm a teacher, right, and I need to know exactly what I need to do. So where do we put the novel must have an opt-in, opt-out form? And is that in addition to the syllabus?
No. The syllabus is the opt-in, opt-out.
Okay, so I
And
don't
that's
have
how
to-
we wrote it at the middle school, is the parents give permission, or the parents say,
Okay.
I want to talk to you about this before I sign anything, basically. And
Okay, because I had heard somewhere some discussion that you would need 2 of them.
No, it's just one.
Okay,
Unless the only time you're gonna need 2 is if you sent home a syllabus
change novels.
and in mid-year you decide, I don't want to do these, I
Mhm.
want to do this, then you need to send a permission slip
Mhm.
home.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And is
Maybe
that
we need to
listed
send a
in
cheat
policy
sheet.
somewhere?
That's what Shayna's asking. I
Okay.
think we probably need
Really
to put it
helpful.
in here.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, otherwise I'm gonna get lost.
So we have a selection and adoption,
We
use
need a
of
cheat sheet.
supplemental.
Yeah.
Yeah, once we develop a policy, can we develop a cheat sheet for teachers that kind of can go through,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So
Chart.
can we add this section right here before we get to removal that we're gonna do?
If you're gonna do this,
That's
yes.
fine.
If you're doing this. click
refer
yes.
back to step 2. If you're going over here, refer to step 7, yes.
Where
Step
will we use paper?
And don't forget about,
Paper.
Yeah.
but don't forget about all of the statutes that are in line with all the policies, so
Yep.
make sure you.
Or I could just go work at a coffee shop. That's easy. Hoping you're not messed up.
Is this, I need to- Are you leaving us, Jacqueline?
I gotta go to family fun.
Oh, well, have a good time.
Have fun at family.
I say, Colin's playing T-ball, right, or not T-ball. playing
So
baseball
use
right
of
now,
novel
so.
sets protocols, that a okay title? And then we can
Yep.
put, okay.
Okay then, well, please put them on the cycle for the next round. He was under the impression that those had been okayed,
Okay,
along with Quizlet. Should I have
in
Quizlet
the
located
fall,
for who? Okay.
ELA teachers, which includes all
Look
K,
it and.
5
Kahoot,
teachers.
Okay.
Is Quizlet,
K through
Flashcards?
Yeah.
12
Tracy uses those?
will,
And I created all those myself, so that's
Did you make
okay,
your
right?
own? Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I
Oh, I didn't see all the tabs at the bottom,
At
jeez.
least
Come
make my
on,
own.
you're
I-
supposed to know this.
I used to make my own Quizlet first.
Well, I make them
I'll
for
have
the
to look
kids and we
around. I'll
play
have to do some
Quizlet
digging.
live, so they're in teams and trying to figure it out. It's fun.
He said he thought, that
Yeah,
because
fine.
I asked him, I said, have you already
And
had
they
certain
get
things
to
approved,
talk
please
about
let me know. And then he sent me those 3 Quizlet, Learn Spanish, and Conjugal English. And so then that's when I sent you the Spanish
Learn
dictionary.
Spanish or study Spanish?
Well, that's the funny thing. It's under the heading studyspanish.com.
But if he sent it to me as Learn Spanish.
Sorry. Because I think he even had a school account at one point where he was paying to have kids use, like, the school is actually paying for him to be able to have kids use it as an assessment tool. So, I don't think that's happening now, but I remember there was a time when he actually set up an account. I don't, I use the freebies. So.
How do I get to this list of already approved
Yeah, I need to
websites?
I just went to it's in the drive.
I actually put it on the teaching learning handbook.
Yeah, and it's in the drive too, so if you just go to approved, well, I was just in it, where was I?
It's in our drive?
Yeah,
Oh.
approved curriculum.
Is there a way for parents to go, I don't know, we got, I know everything's approved, but is there a place where parents can go
And then,
look
oh,
at
here we go down here, language, there it is.
Some-
Well, that might not be our language, but.
all this other
We can
stuff?
link the
Actually, I think I
approved
have it on there.
supplemental
Curriculum.
curriculum document she's got. We can link it right into the curriculum
And then is
part
it
of the
grade-
website.
Is it grade separated or is it?
So right now, how we have it is
I
here's
saw
the
that.
content standards, here's all of our main what's been approved.
Right.
But I
Sometimes
could,
I try to find stuff on my
I mean,
phone,
I don't
or
know how
like
you would
emails and things like
put,
that. You probably just
it's
have to
a
go to the
very-
because it's like,
So
it's,
much.
because it's not, there isn't a book, that most of them, it's not just for first grade, I mean, it would be for primary, it would be,
Right.
so that, but I could link this in and I'm the only one that has editing access and then you have all the tabs, but, and I even have down here like what's been tabled, what's been denied, here's our theater
Nate,
production,
Does that look
I
right?
could add that in there.
So people can look, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm gonna
Shayna, is there anything
make
else
something
that you
note.
need?
I think somewhere then the video clips would end up on the syllabus as well, yes? So, do we need use of video clips under 5-minute protocol and maybe, I don't know, I would wanna make it clear as possible.
Is there any way that, to make it less burdensome, but again, eyes on everything, I was gonna think maybe putting in the syllabus kind of one of your caveats of throughout the course of the year, videos or clips under 5 minutes may be necessary in order to clearly explain or demonstrate or visualize the thing that's happening in the
Whatever
classroom at the
concepts.
time, the concept. Please be aware that I may send out emails when this,
With additional clips.
with additional clips and or this may take place with, you know, within a 24-hour
So
time
what I
period.
thought-
I think what we talked about was, sorry Lynn, was that we were gonna do the clips through this preliminary approval site, for the
But
ones
don't-
that you don't know ahead of time.
But don't the parents need to be, don't we need to give them access to all the clips as well? So not only do they need to be approved, but do we have to give them access to it?
Their parents?
Yes.
Yes, but if it hasn't been approved and you absolutely have to show it because
Right,
your
right,
kids
right.
didn't understand
But like,
goal binding,
my
then it
natural
goes.
disaster clips that I know about ahead of time.
Yeah, I would put them on your
Those are going
syllabus.
on a
We have it.
syllabus.
Yeah, I would put them on a syllabus.
So where did we put that?
Well, we just did novel sets.
So it's almost like that the novel set protocol would be very similar to the video clip protocol, I would think. All teachers will send home a syllabus, I can't read that far, outlining the video clips or providing the links to the video clips or something like that that will be used.
Okay, so use of video clips.
5 minutes or less video, however many. fall, get rid of ELA, just teachers. We'll send her the syllabus outlining the novels that may
Outlining video clips.
or video clips.
That may be used during the course of the year to enhance student understanding of concepts. Parents will sign the syllabus to opt their students. This seems very cumbersome. Is there any way to put these two things together? Or do we need to keep them separate?
I would say keep them separate.
Alright, so parents will sign the syllabus to opt their students in for the use of the identified, opt their students in for the use of the identified videos listed. If during the course of the school year the teacher chooses to add a different
Another, add another, or, yeah, add another clip.
Whatever list you have, whatever list is anybody have. Because I think
So
there's
now are
also
we asking
some
permission slips, or are we just
No.
saying we just need to
the
let them
students have to
know?
be, teachers
Um,
have notifications
will
and
be
be
sent.
notification will be sent
Yeah.
via email.
And I don't want them to
Or
be-
JoJo, I mean, same difference, I guess.
Sent
have this in mind.
via email or class dojo. No, I didn't need to do that.
If during the school year, just use the notification or something, email or class.
Okay.
I think we should just require every parent to join every Google Classroom so they can get every notification of everything we do on a daily basis.
That would be so much easier.
It would, but I don't think they'd like it because my students don't like getting my notifications. So I just hit delete.
Mhm.
It's a lot of notifications. I didn't realize because when we first started using Google that every time I posted something, an email got sent to the kid. I was like, and then they'd be like, Mrs. Haz, what are you doing sending things at 5 a.m.? And I'm like, well, that's when I'm up, so
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so to the teachers in the group, does this clarify for you processes for supplemental materials? Okay.
I think when Lynn sends out the survey, if there's anything in there that needs more clarifying or cleaning up, I think we'll get
So
good feedback
one of
on
the
that.
things that we talked about was that I'm not gonna send out this survey for this one. I'm gonna send all of the library curriculum, the policies that went in front of the board. There were like 2 or 3 that we tabled. I'm gonna send all of those out for survey at the same time because I feel like
Okay.
if
So
I
that
sent
this
them
would be
out,
with
this
it.
would be
Okay,
with
so
it.
just be
If I
aware.
sent them out separate, just like we've done
Yeah.
before, then people get confused and
Yeah.
they're like, didn't you just send this to me? What do you, so I'm gonna,
Okay.
I can't remember if there were 2 or 3 that were tabled and then plus this one and then the form, I'm gonna send them all out at the same exact time. So that'll probably be in a couple of weeks because it'll probably be next Thursday. I'll send it out because we're gonna meet with the librarians because that's why we tabled it, was they had some additional information from one of their meetings that Bob asked us to add in there, and then I'll send all of them out next. We'll bring them back to policy, look at them, and then I'll send them out after that. Yeah.
And I think the only other thing that I'm not as, because the policy hasn't been written yet, is the classroom library. I mean, we might have to add picture books somewhere into this if the group does not decide.
No, we have to tackle classroom libraries. It's part of the library.
Right,
So we
but I
have
mean,
to.
that, I could see that changing some of this if it doesn't go
Right.
the way we think it's going to go.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No. What we have to do is get those books approved,
Mhm.
and so it could.
But again, is it
Take us a
approved
little
for
bit.
just being on your shelf or approved for instruction? So we
Well, if the board approves the books, then they're approved for use instructionally.
So my Storm Runners novel has been approved. It's sitting on the shelf in the library, so
Mhm.
I don't have to get that novel set approved again.
Well, the board, we'd have to go back and look to see if the board actually took action on that particular library book, because they set aside all the library books because parents are opting their kids into the library books, so we don't have to go through that process because the parents are taking care of that. So unless we can show that it was
Okay.
approved in a board
Okay.
meeting, it has to go through the process.
So if I can't approve Little Cloud, where I was pulling prepositions out, is approved through the library.
It's still, you're using it as instructional, so
Yes.
it has to be approved
Right.
by the board.
Storm Runners is not on the list, Shane.
Okay, so it's added. I mean, I added it for supplemental. I
had-
sent it, but I assumed it was on the library shelf, so it was okay. So
We already talked about assuming, Shayna.
no, I know. I'm learning a lot.
No assumptions are allowed.
Yeah.
We need cheat sheets. You're right.
That's why we need to be very clear.
Once we, I know this is super hard and overwhelming, but once we get through this first
Yeah.
part, then it's gonna be a lot
But
easier.
It's monumental, the first part.
Exactly.
But yeah, again, so Little Cloud's in my classroom library. If my classroom library gets approved,
You can use it.
then I can use it.
Mhm. And that is part of what we wanna do this summer, but what we need from the teachers, which
Is
is
all the
why,
scanning.
right, which is why I asked the principals to share that.
I'm gonna
so.
sell my
Share what?
books at a garage sale this summer.
No.
So I'll book to read.
Yeah, no, we have to have books in our classrooms. Okay, can we go to removal of materials?
Yes,
Are
they
we
go
good?
straight to the garage sale.
Straight to the garage sale, is that
Yes.
what you
She's gonna get rid of all her books, she said. Curricular materials may be removed when, looks like you guys already worked on this one, the material.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can kind of do that.
Okay,
So that's the end of that.
Is
So
it
are we still
technically-
using the uniform grievance procedure?
Well, this
Because
is,
now we have the review and reconsideration form, shouldn't we be using the same form for all of our
so that's the
materials?
form that gets used then if we want to have
Well,
something.
I mean, so our librarians created a form that they have used, and then this
Review
is the form from ISBA, so.
But that's what we've called it in all the other ones, so
Mhm.
should I strike this and just put that,
Yep.
so we're using the same document for everything, that makes more sense.
We called it, I just wanna make sure that's what we called it.
The weather's crazy out there.
Becca, what does that say?
It's
Review
windy.
and,
It says review and reconsideration of learning materials.
of learning materials? We took
Of
out
learning
learning,
materials.
but we're not using that term, so it probably needs to be that's, right, didn't we take learning materials out of all of the?
No.
It's now called.
Well, no, yeah, because that says over here use of supplemental materials.
So we need to change that.
Okay, yes, we did supplemental materials or any support, okay. So we got rid of learning materials, changed it to supplemental materials.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I think we're done with this one.
Selection option using curriculum materials. And that is supplemental curriculum review and reconsideration. We'll look through that.
well,
We went- you struggled a lot with that
25,
stuff.
20F now, cause we are only,
Oh, it's wrong down here then.
yeah, well, that, we haven't changed it, so.
It's 25/20th.
Cause this policy is now 25/20,
So
because
do
we
I need to
combined them
change
all, yep, and
this?
then you need to take off 25/30, cause we don't have that anymore.
Okay, so because 25/30 is now 25F.
20.
So
So remember,
this I can
25/20, 25/40, and 25/30 have all been combined to 25/20. Am I right?
Okay, but this 25/30 says it's the,
Remember, we combined them at the last
Oh.
meeting.
So this is confusing to me. So is this new policy called 25/40? It used to be 25/20?
Go to the top of this doc. It is now called 25/20, so that's
So
how
it's-
ISBA put it. It used to be 25/40,
so now it's 25.
and
It
now
doesn't, but it doesn't read that way.
well, that's just how they put it, and I didn't change it. So 25
Because
formally,
it's just-
now 25/20, so the policy is 25/20. So they combined it and crossed out all of 2540.
That makes more sense to me.
And so, but
You mean it's
then, so
semicolon.
then we started working off of this. And then when we started looking at 2530, we were like, why do we, so we literally struck through all of that and put it on this one. So,
Okay, that
just to make,
sense
I
here.
just, for my, hold on really fast. So what will go out, hold on, I just gotta get there really quickly. For our, so the ones that we tabled, so that will all come together just so that the team is super clear, and if I'm wrong, then just tell me. We tabled 2500, which is just library materials. We tabled 2510, which is selection of library materials, and then 2510P, selection of library material procedure. So those three we tabled, and then we talked a bunch about 2520, and so we said that we were sending that back to policy, and then we talked about 2530 sending back to policy, but we've now combined that. So next week we're going to meet with the librarians and do what we were asked to do at this board meeting, and then we will have 4 policies go out. So again, it'll be 2500, which is library materials, 2510 selection of library materials, 2510 selection of library materials procedure, and then now 2520 selection, adoption, and removal of curricular materials. And then we'll have 2520F, which is the form.
Okay,
So actually 5 documents.
and maybe even more, because we're gonna not really do anything with 3160, because that's Kelsey's special services
Oh yeah.
document.
Okay, so we wanna look at this form 25, and we just need to change it. I just didn't wanna change it till I made that super clear. So if you go to the draft, it's exactly what ISBA had. But,
So they're calling it 2530F.
well, that's because, right, but we changed it to 2520.
So does this need to be struck and it needs to be 2520? Okay.
Because we don't have a 2530 any longer.
Twenty-five, 20.
And then I just want to look at one other thing. Okay, this is what our librarians have been using, so I'm just gonna add this to this doc so you can look at it and see if we wanna merge the two, or if we like ISBA's better, what our thoughts are. So let me just get to that really quickly. Hold on.
All I'm doing is changing learning materials to supplemental materials where it's written.
So,
And I don't need this.
oh, it is right here.
And I don't need this.
Okay, so if you go back to our form, make our agenda, you can see this form, and then you can see what the librarians have been using.
What do you want me to do?
Go back to right there, and then I just linked it in right there. So this is what they created and have been using. And then you have what ISBA, so there's 2 examples.
I actually like the wording on the ISBA better.
Is there anything on the other one that you want to just add into ISBA's draft?
think 2520
We'll have to
2530.
fill out one.
No, at the,
You need minutes?
in the bottom, it says, please
Oh.
review policy.
Thank you, 2520, is that what it is?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm changing the title too, so.
That's weird, okay. Formatting is not good. Can we take none of the above off, because if you're not a parent or a guardian or an employee or a student or a district resident, I think we've said pretty consistently, we don't want people outside of the district. We're open to anybody who lives within the district, but we don't want people outside of the district.
What if it's like a grandmother who lives outside the district?
Does she not speak through the parents?
I guess you can say relative of a student.
We just don't wanna open it up to,
I-
Yeah, you can replace it with
Anybody.
relative, I think that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll
parent,
just
guardian,
keep it.
or relative,
Right,
okay, and then I can take this off,
yep.
because we've been pretty consistent about that, so I just wanna make sure we're staying consistent.
The other thing is,
Parent, guardian, what is that thing? What is that thing?
it's a invisible table you got going
Oh.
on. That's why it's funky.
Or, what did we say, family member?
relative.
Relative, thank you. Relative of district student.
Will you go back up for a second? So where it says, if you object to your child using complete or supplemental, and the policy 24 provides a way to request an alternative resource for your child. Policy 2425 is parental rights.
That's where you
I
can.
know, we normally will put like what it is.
Oh, policy
So-
2425, parental rights.
Mm-hmm.
The format, how do we get rid
We
of
can-
this table?
We can fix all that.
Okay, so the formatting is bizarre, but, alright, okay, why is library capitalized?
People are
I'm
tired.
sure it's not a proper noun.
It must be pretty windy out there.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy windy earlier.
Well, I see all the dust.
Oh yeah, it was insane.
I can't see rocks from mountain, it's so dusty.
Track practice was fun.
Hmm?
Track practice was fun.
I'm just putting
Oh, man.
survey probably this week.
Is this the same form we're gonna use for library books? That's kind of, yeah,
We just
library
have to clean it
materials.
up.
So,
So yeah, it's just one form.
yeah, so if we go back to this, there's some language in here I just didn't really like. We don't have 2540 anymore, right?
Right.
Okay, so yeah, I don't think we use any of that, and we just go with this. that would be my recommendation.
Well, and then I think that's pretty much this one right here anyway, so.
Anything that you guys want to change or add on this one? You're good? Okay. All right, 3160 Special Services, this is coming from Kelsey Badger. And she went through and updated based on the special ed manual and current special education laws.
And this was part of our findings, that we had to have something in here that identified child fine, so.
Identify what?
Child fine.
So if you,
We're mandated anytime that we have a suspicion that a child may have a disability, that we are mandated to actually do something about it. It's called child fine.
What's the definition of the disability that we are mandated to report?
we're not mandated to report, we are mandated to pursue or,
At least have a conversation with parents about
if you suspect there's something going on.
I see.
So it's about parent rights and parents being made aware if there's you suspect something's happening.
Very interesting.
And under Idaho federal law, it's called child fine.
So the law even says that we're required to find homeschooled kids with suspected disabilities, which oftentimes that comes through like Head Start and and then also private schools.
Wouldn't it still, I guess, I mean, whatever, I have no dog in this fight, but in my brain, I'm thinking if I was a parent who thought that my student might have a concern, then this would be reasonable for me to bring them to the school to have them assessed. But
Yes.
how would the school go about trying to track down these kids that aren't currently in
It's
our...
not about tracking them down. So if I had, and we oftentimes do have lots of parents that will come in, they're not necessarily affiliated with the school, but they're within our zone, and they're saying, my kid is struggling with, let's just say, speech, and I would like my child assessed to see what's going on. We are obligated, because they're within our zone, to do our due diligence to support that child and support that family. On the other side, if we had a kid in preschool and we suspected there was something, then we have an obligation to notify parents that, there's something going on, what they choose to do with it, but.
We also, under this, have an obligation to reach out to any private school that resides within our district boundaries to offer opportunities for special education services to their students, but if private schools accept that, they have to also accept all of the strings that come with federal dollars. So
I was going to say, so would it be on their campus or our campus?
Theirs.
Interesting.
I mean, well,
it could be.
That would be it.
It
You
could
could
be
have a parent. I mean, when I was a principal,
could be dual enrollment.
When I was a principal, I definitely had families that had their kid in private school, and then they would come for the service after school in my building. So it kind of, you work out with the parents.
Yeah. So okay. Moving on to the
When
next.
did this get changed? Or,
This law.
yeah.
It's always been that for a long time. Our policy was never updated.
We didn't actually have a policy about it, and so when we
child
had a
fine, yeah.
finding, they were like, you need to have something. But that being said, there isn't a district that has it in policy, because it's part of the special ed manual that gets adopted, and then that's the guidance, and so it's all listed under there. But the latest reviewer from the state said you actually have to have a policy about it now,
So Idaho just went through an audit by the feds, and they found that we were out of compliance in some areas. And I don't know if this is part of it, that we're not requiring people to have this policy, but that was a finding for us.
You know my frustration for this, so that's why I was wondering. So that's good.
I mean, the idea is, this is really a protective layer, so if you had a student that everyone assumes has a disability,
Mhm.
and so that but you're not giving them the accommodations that you feel like they need. So
Right.
let's just say I have a student that has dysgraphia, I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure, but I'm not doing what I know to be best for that child, and then I'm not communicating
Right.
that to the parents that, we could be held
Mhm.
liable for that if something were to come about. So the idea is that if you suspect that you're doing your due diligence to support the family and give the student what they need. So
Yes, in a timely manner.
Mhm.
And I feel like
Right.
we've definitely been doing a great job
yeah.
doing that.
So
Okay, travel allowances and expenses, this is from Jessica, our CFO, so she went through this.
Jessica has tried to do a really good job of just cleaning up some of the protocols and procedures so that it's super clear.
It is the responsibility of the board to review travel within the district by the superintendent, board meeting, okay. I wasn't reading that right. Unapproved official business of a grant recipient?
Travel costs or the expenses for this is all from ISBA. Travel costs
Oh,
or
under
the-
federal award,
Mhm.
okay, that's why.
Why would they not send everything for week nine? July.
What was that?
I would definitely send everything for week nine.
Yeah.
And then. I don't know.
Send it now.
Yeah.
So it'll be submitted for July.
Yeah.
And then when do I send the rest? August?
Well, it's always a month behind, so she sent out May
I
stuff.
think it's only gonna be a month with all of everybody.
So the
sending
stuff that you
pictures
sent out
to
is for
her.
June or July? June. So she's already sent all the stuff for June, so anything that you send out now would be for July, so it's always, so.
So it'd be approved for
I
end
mean,
of
then
August.
essentially I need everything for July by the time we have the June board meeting. I need everything for August by the time I have the July board
Okay,
meeting.
so board meetings are the deadline.
Yeah.
You said there's like a form where I should put each one of these separately
Websites?
into different forms.
No, you just send it to me.
This,
Mm-hmm.
I already did.
Right. So then I do it.
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'll try to clean it up because I just shared it with you, so I'll try to.
Okay, was there anything in there that was problematic?
If it's anything that you created.
There might be somewhere else, but do you guys have like reasonable defined, like all the companies I've worked for, when you go on a trip, they're like, okay, you can't spend more than $100 for dinner. Like,
have
Yeah,
a
we
per
actually,
diem.
we have a form that
Okay.
goes along with this, so for our district, it's $20 for dinner, 15 for lunch, and it's right here, and $10 for breakfast.
yeah, that's a lot tighter than the last companies I've worked at.
Yeah, it's not it's a number amount you can only.
Right.
Yeah. And Jessica put coach fair only, you don't get to say first class. Which I think is funny.
So next week's policy meeting then would just be new stuff, it wouldn't be going over this stuff and or
Well,
surveys?
when we get done with this,
Okay.
then I'll ask that question,
Okay.
because I have an idea that
Okay.
everybody's good with it.
Well, this is Jessica wrote it, so I'm not gonna argue with her, this is her world.
You can be rude and leave, it's okay.
That's okay, I don't wanna go see my kids'
Forever.
little league game, it's a mess. So, I'm sorry, that's on recording, my bad.
You can clip it out. Not really. We're not.
Does this seem weird that it
technologically
would be the superintendent who would determine the reimbursement rates for meals and not the board?
I don't know the law for that.
Just trying to think, well, I mean, I
Jessica
guess
knows
Jessica does determine the fees for other things and then she brings them
I feel
forward,
like the state
but
tells you what some
No,
of their,
this-
The state doesn't tell you?
Mm-mm.
Maybe the CFO.
yeah, because Lakeland's rates are
Yeah.
less than the state's rates,
Right.
so,
I
yeah.
thought she took it off of some of the state rates, no?
Well, unless she changed them, what we had before, the 10, 15, and 20, that's less than the state.
Right.
Yeah. But the CFO does, typically though, when we have rates, they come to the board for approval, so it seems like that should be in here somewhere, that I might be the one to recommend it, but it would be the board that would
Well,
approve
we
it.
can't edit it because she didn't give us that
Oh,
access.
yeah, that's not good.
She said, don't touch my financials. I feel like that could be part of the discussion.
Can you put a note on it, even if you can't edit it?
I might
Sometimes-
have editing access, maybe.
Well, sometimes even if you can't edit, Google will allow you to put a
I
note.
don't
No,
But I might have, and just no one else does. Nope, none of us.
yeah, we can talk to her about that, that's the only question, and the board
Yeah,
would.
that might be worth just asking that question
Mhm.
of, do we want that to say it comes to the board?
You could make a copy of it and make your own edits.
I could.
Yep, okay, so other than
Okay.
that, I think it's good. We didn't wanna touch the service animals in school, cause this is,
Well, we had, a couple of board members that wanted to talk about this, but I also feel like we definitely have some staff members and we have principals, so I would like to wait till we have them present to give some input about because a lot of this is law, like it's a requirement, but if we're gonna put any nuances, I would like the people that are, have experienced it, are experienced in it, are doing it, to give us some input.
And it's also 5 pages long.
Okay. So,
Let's take off this.
can we, so just for next, because I will send out an agenda, so this is kind of what I was thinking, are you guys comfortable if I send out 3160, 7430, 7430P, so the ones special services and then the travel out for survey? And then I'll put those on the top of next week and we can quickly just look at if there's feedback on those. And then, we are meeting per 2500, 2510, 2510P.
can I ask you a question first? I think the board said that for Jessica's financials, that they're not sending those out to the public first, or was it just certain ones because they were basically tied to the law? I just know that they weren't sending, because nobody knows the rules for financials like the CFO does, so.
I can just take those straight to the board, but I did take 3160 and they said to bring it back to policy, so I feel like that one should go out for survey.
And I don't mind if we send Jessica's out too, it just seems I have that in the back of my mind that they said, Michelle said that at one of the board meetings, that we didn't send these out because this is Jessica's area of expertise, and we didn't think that the community would have enough knowledge to be able to give input.
I don't remember. All I remember is that she asked to table that one from last meeting. But as far as it going out for survey,
Yeah, I don't care either way.
don't
I just,
remember.
I just don't know how much input we'll get on that.
Okay, I'm gonna, if everybody's okay, I'll send them out.
Yep.
And then after we're done with that, we meet with the librarians on Monday, so there were some key things that we were asked to table 2500, 2510, 2510P to get that information. So in my mind, we'll add whatever we're supposed to add in those, we'll bring all of those back. So there's 5, we'll do 2500, 2510, 2510P. And then if everybody's good with those, whatever additional information we add in there, then I'll send all 5 of those out for survey next Thursday.
The 5 is also then the 2520 that we worked on
2520F.
today.
So next meeting will have nothing to do with any of those things. That survey will come out, so it'll be the following meeting.
But we're gonna do library next meeting, again. We're gonna go back
So
to the library.
if the 3 that we'll look at next, so I'll send out for, survey 3160, 7430, and 7430P. If we, to Lisa's point, we may not get a lot of comments. So if we quickly get through the comments and make whatever adjustments, then we'll jump to 2500, 2510, 2510P, because those are the ones that we tabled,
That's the library
waiting on
stuff.
some additional
Right.
input.
And those have already received, those have not received comments yet. Okay, so those will be discussed again and gone over.
But we held them waiting for this, and then
Okay.
I said I want to send all of them out together. So then if everybody is good with what we have, the draft, then I'll send all 5 of those out next Thursday. So then the following
will be the
Thursday-
commenting stuff on 2520, 25,
Yes.
20. Okay, so following. I feel like the library stuff is already pretty well hammered out, especially by our librarians and whatnot. So I don't think maybe I'll take a Thursday off.
Yeah, they just want to make sure that we have some
Yeah.
language directly from the law in there.
So are you good with next steps? I'll send those out for survey and then go from there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you, thank you.
Have a great night.
So I'll make the agenda and then go from there. Thanks, Nate.
See ya.
Can you turn off the recording?
Yep.